topic of the preparation is joy. We've been advancing towards this preparation the whole week. We went through lessons together. We built up this intention from our heart, the heart of Mark 1 and Mark 10 together for the world cling. And together we want to turn to you and pass on the joy, the intention, the confidence that in this lesson we'll be able to even further rejoice that the Creator gives us the opportunity, the confidence to be together, study together with the sages. Let's move to some excerpts. Excerpt number 1 from Shamarty. One's future depends and is tied to gratitude for the past, according to the importance one attributes to the holy work. To that extent he should give praise and thanks for it. This is so because it is true that we cannot appreciate to the importance of being able to sometimes observe the mitzvot of the Creator even without any intention. In that state, one comes to feel elation and joy in the heart. The praise and the gratitude one gives for it expand the feelings, and one is elated by every single point in a holy work. He knows whose servant he is, and thus sources ever higher. This is the meaning of what is written. I thank you for the grace that you have made with me. Meaning for the past, and by this one can confidently say, and he does say, and that you are destined to do with me. Active workshop. Let's share our inspiration and joy from the holy work. Why is our work holy? Because it is not for ourselves. Because we work for the friends and for the world and for the Creator. And the Creator has awakened us for this work with these wonderful friends. What grace! What a blessing! Thank you, Creator, Raj, due to the Creator giving us the privilege of being here with the great friends, these holy sparks in our society around the world. Together we have the opportunity to make contact with Him. Yes, He's giving us space to think a little bit about why we're alive and where it's all going. And this is truly an opportunity for us to awaken, a request, a prayer to feel us ourselves together like that soul and to be in that in practice. We also see from the excerpt the wholeness of reality that we are invited to. The Creator is teaching us how to get to our past and future connect together and bring a state of joy and happiness. Yes, let's share our impressions and joy from the holy world that differentiates us from mundanity, from other people who are engaged in other things, and we very much would like to engage now in that the friends will discover the quality of love and bestow that the Creator will warm their hearts and turn their hearts of stone into hearts of flesh. Let's take with us all those who are asleep. The Creator is good that does good. He wants to bring us to His degree. Anything besides that is not good. And He wants to give us wholeness. And we rise from the degree of a beast to the degree of man Adam to resemble the upper one. And this is a holy thing that we were privileged to learn how to become similar to Him. Gratitude and joy. Excerpt number 2 from Zohar for all portion of Jacob lived. Thaner is present only in a holy place and not in a deficient place or a flawed place or a place of sadness, but in a proper place, a place of joy. Again, the Shiner is present only in a whole place and not in a deficient place or a fault place or a place of sadness, but in a proper place, the place of joy. Silent workshop. Let's feel the in the connection between us. Friends, let's feel the in the connection between us. Dear friends, in the first part of the lesson, we will learn from a recorded lesson from January 25th, 2002 based on the article When Should One Use Pride in the Work. We'll read the article together in the 10. We have 32 minutes for that. When should one use pride in the work? It is written, quote, his heart was proud in the ways of the Lord, end quote. And in the Misnar, it was said, quote, be very, very humble, end quote. Thus, this contradicts what is written that his heart should be proud. The Tsar asks, quote, and the Lord appeared unto him by the oaks of Mamre. Why in the oaks of Mamre and not elsewhere? It is because Mam gave him an advice about the circumcision. When the Creator told Abraham to circumcise himself, Abraham went to consult his friends and told him, you are over 90 years old, you will torment yourself. Told him, remember the day when the Chaldeans threw you in the furnace. and that famine that the world endured, and those kings whom your men chased and whom you struck, the Creator saved you from all of them. Rise up and do your master as your master commands, the Creator told. You advised him in favor of the circumcision. Thus I will appear to him only in your abode. End quote. This is difficult to understand. If the Creator commanded him to circumcise himself, then he went to ask his friends if he should obey the Creator. What if, God forbid, had said otherwise? Would he have, God forbid, heeded the advice of man and not the word of the Creator? Is that possible to say? It is also difficult to understand. What man told him that he should obey? The Creator that he will save you for sure, just as he saved you from the furnace. This implies that the basis for why M told him to obey the Creator is because the Creator would save him just as he saved him from the furnace. Otherwise, you should not obey. We see the same thing where our sages said, quote, died in the presence of his father during his father's life. Some say that because of him his father died when complained to Nimrod about his son Arm, about the breaking of his statues and throwing them into the furnace. And Haran said to himself, if Arm wins, I'm with him, and if Nimrod wins, I am with him. When Arm was saved, they said to Haran, who are you with? Haran replied, I am with. Threw him into the furnace, and he burned. End quote. We see about Haran that since he said that he was going to take upon himself devotion on condition that the Creator would save him, he was burned. That's why in Aram's case, when M told him, you should obey the Creator since he saved Arm from the furnace, meaning yesterday's Arm, for example, then the Creator would also save today's Arm when he circumcised himself. This is just like and with the furnace. The only difference here is that they are the same thing but in the same body, meaning in two states of a. In the literal we see that with Haram and in the furnace there was the matter of the Gentiles, meaning that foreigners wanted both Arm and Haram not to obey the Creator. This was not so with the circumcision, which the Creator instructed him. That is, there is a difference between foreigners saying not to obey the Creator or the Creator telling him to obey him. Should say that when foreigners want a person to idol worship and detach himself from faith in the Creator, a person should give unconditional dedication. For this reason, when Har said that he was ready to dedicate himself on condition that he survives, like Hava, not regarded as dedication, and this is why he was burned in the furnace. This is not so here when the Creator told him to circumcise himself, and he went to consult his friends. We should interpret this differently, that he thought that the Creator telling him to circumcise himself is a high degree, and he was still unworthy of it, as he thought that if the Creator told him to circumcise himself, and he was still unworthy of it, he might fall even from the state he was in at the time, since he knew he was in loneliness, as it is written, quote, and I'm dust and ashes, end quote. Therefore, he went to ask whether he was permitted to walk into this high degree and circumcise himself, or should he wait until he is worthy of it. This is why Anil told him, you're over 90 years old, and you will torment yourself, beginning to ascend to high degrees now, and beginning to do more work in order to qualify yourself to be worthy of the commandment of circumcision. You are too old to start making great efforts now, in order to be rewarded with higher degrees. This is suitable for a young man who has a great future, not for you who is already over 90 years old. Therefore, this is not for you. However, when he came to ask, Mamre replied to him, you see that the Creator does not look at your loneliness. Let him say when you are worthy, and then he can help you. As our sages said, quote, one who comes to purify is aided, end quote. But when you feel that you are dust and ashes, the Creator cannot help you. And you see that when you were thrown in the furnace, the Creator helped you nonetheless, since he is merciful and gracious. This is as our sages said about the verse, quote, and I will pardon whom I pardon, although he is unfit and unworthy of it, end quote. Therefore, here too with the commandment of circumcision, the Creator wants you to enter a higher level, although you are not worthy or fit. Hence, go and do your Master's commandments, and do not look at your own loneliness. This is as Sam said about what the Creator said, quote, now I know that you are God-fearing, End quote. The question is known. Does the Creator not know the future? That he said, now I know. Meaning that, now he knows that you are God-fearing. That is, this means that now Abraham knew that he was God-fearing. And the question is, why did Abraham need to know this? We should say that now that he knows that he is God-fearing, Abraham can go to a higher level and is not afraid that it might be too high for him. Rather, he can already ascend. Likewise, we can interpret what Rabbi said, quote, one should know in one's heart whether he is a complete righteous or not. End quote. We should also understand the why he needs to know this. Indeed, by this he will try to walk in higher degrees and will not think that it is too high for him. Therefore, advise him not to look at his loneliness that he feels, that he is dust and ashes. Rather, the Creator wants you to ascend in degrees through the commandment of circumcision. Go and do it, and do not look at anything. This is the meaning of the verse. Quote, the Lord is higher, and the low will see. End quote. And as it is written, quote, the Lord raises up the lowly. End quote. Now we can understand what we asked. Why did Abraham consult his friends whether to obey the Creator or not? The meaning is that if he should wait and qualify himself to enter the high degree with which he will be rewarded following the commandment of circumcision, or should he do it right away and ignore his loneliness where he feels that he is dust and ashes? This is what he asked his friends about, and not whether to observe the commandment of the Creator. God forbid. And by this we will also understand why, when he was thrown into the furnace, he did not seek his friends' advice, but agreed to be thrown into the furnace in order to sanctify the name of heaven. However, this is the quality of faith, where we must give unconditional devotion, meaning to say I'm very low, and this is why the Creator does not want to give devotion. But in idol worship, the rule is to be killed, but not to reach. For this reason, when Haran wanted to sanctify the Creator with dedication only on condition that he stays alive like this is clearly not be killed, but do not be or breach, since his view was that he agreed to be thrown in the furnace provided he is not killed, it follows that he did not observe at all the commandment that there is in idol worship, which is be killed, but do not preach. This is why Haran was burned in the furnace. Conversely, Am's view was in the form of be killed, but do not reach. Therefore, thanks to the complete commandment, he was saved from the furnace. And this is the meaning of the nations speaking to him there, demanding of him to worship idols, but with the commandment of circumcision, where the Creator told him to circumcise himself. The Creator certainly demanded to ascend in degree. Once he sanctified the Creator with Nimrod, what did the Creator want from Abraham? Certainly to ascend to a higher level. It was about this that he thought that perhaps he was still unworthy of ascending to such a high level, which is why he went to ask his friends what to do, since he felt that he was still not worthy of such good loot, greatness with which he would be awarded by observing the commandment of circumcision. Therefore, it is a completely different matter here, and according to the above we see that there are two states in the work. 1. Faith, and 2. In the state of faith, it cannot be said that he is lowly, and therefore cannot observe the commandment of sanctifying the Creator, which is done by the general public of Israel, even among common people, that we hear that they died for the sanctification of the Creator. Therefore, when a person begins the work of the Creator on the path of truth, he must take upon himself the burden of faith above reason. Even though all the nations in the world in his body laugh at him, he must sanctify the Creator before the Gentiles in his body and say that he believes in the Creator and wants to serve him with all his heart and soul. And even though they disagree with him, he can say that he takes upon himself to love the Creator, even if he has no feeling when he utters it. A person should not be impressed with the organs disagreeing with his view. He does what he can do. That is in speech and action. He can do this by coercion, and although he feels nothing in it, he is still doing an awakening from below. It was said about this, and I will bless you in all that you will do. That is the Creator will later send him blessing on what he does. Although after the overcoming he does not see that he received any blessing, meaning he does not feel any nearing to the Creator more than he was prior to the overcoming. So the body asks the person, you told me that if you overcome your mind and reason, the Creator would give you blessing, meaning that by this you will feel the importance of spirituality. But you see that you are in the same state as before the work when you exerted to do things by coercion. To this comes the answer. If I felt the blessing instantaneously, then I would have done it in order to receive reward. This is similar to Haran, who said, if I see that Abraham was saved from the furnace, I am with him. Here too, when he says, I'm willing to buy myself and do good deeds against the body's will, but on condition that afterwards I will get a good feeling how worthwhile it is to serve the Creator in order to receive reward, meaning a good feeling. Hence, if a person wants to receive reward immediately after the work of by coercion, it's as though he began with the coercion so that afterward he would not have to work by coercion. It follows that when accepting the faith, he sets conditions, but the faith of acceptance of the kingdom of heaven must be unconditional surrender. For this reason, where faith is concerned, it cannot be said that a person feels that he is too lowly, that it is not for him to assume the burden of the kingdom of heaven. Also, a person shouldn't say, now I'm not in the mood for this. I'll wait for when I am in a better mood, and then I'll try to take upon myself the burden of the kingdom of heaven. Rather, this duty lies with every person to take upon himself the burden of the kingdom of heaven at any place and at any time. Conversely, when speaking of the Torah, this is the time when one should feel one's loneliness, since our sages said it is forbidden to teach Torah to idol worshippers, but only to Israel, and he should therefore first see if he is truly regarded as Israel. This means that he should see whether he's worthy of learning Torah. If he sees that he is still unworthy, he must try to be worthy, and then he will be able to learn Torah. What is the way by which one should qualify himself to be worthy? Way as our sages said, the Creator said, I've created the evil inclination, I have created the Torah as a spice. In other words, a person should learn Torah first, so the Torah will lead him into being regarded as Israel. When he has the quality of Israel, he will ascend in degree to learn Torah, which is then called the Torah of the Creator, as in the names of the Creator. Before he is rewarded with being Israel, he must try to engage in, so it will make him become Israel. Then is the time to come to wholeness, called the purpose of creation, which is to do good to his creations. However, when he engages in, since a person must work on two lines, right and left, meaning a time of wholeness and a time of lack. On one hand, we must thank the Creator, and one who feels he has received a lot of good from the Creator is more capable of giving gratitude. So when a person engages in Torah, this is the time to be in wholeness, as though the Creator has brought him close to be among the king's servants. However, one must not lie to oneself and say that he feels that he is serving the king when he does not feel this way. Therefore, how can he be grateful to the Creator for drawing him near if he does not feel it? However, a person then must say that even though he is in loneliness, still immersed in self-love, and cannot do anything above reason, the Creator still gave him a thought and desire to engage in Torah and mitzvot, and has also given him some strength to be able to overcome the spies who speak to him and poke his mind with their arguments, and still he has some grip on spirituality. At that time, a person should pay attention to this and believe that the Creator is tending to him and guides him on the track that leads to the king's palace. It follows that he should be happy that the Creator is watching over him and gives him the descents as well. That is, a person should believe as much as he can understand that the Creator is giving him the sense, and certainly a person cannot say that he himself receives the ascents, but that the Creator wants to bring him closer. This is why he gives him the ascents. Also, a person should believe that the Creator gives him the descents as well, because he wants to bring him closer. Therefore, every single thing that he can do, he must do as though he is in a state of ascent. Therefore, when he overcomes a little during the descent, it is called awakening from below. Each act that he does He believes that it is the Creator's will, and by this itself, he is rewarded with greater nearing, meaning that a person himself begins to feel that the Creator has brought him closer. It is as Balasam said that when a person is happy, when he feels that he is privileged, that he has some grip on spirituality, that person is called blessed, and the blessed clings to the blessed. That is the person begins to feel that the Creator is blessing him now, and he feels no lack at all. However, this is so specifically when he engages in vocate a little bit of his time to work on the left line, as this gives him room to pray for the lacks in him. It is needed that during the wholeness, when a person is grateful to the Creator for bringing him a little closer, this is the time to receive the filling for his lacks, which he felt while he was working in the manner of the left. It follows that the answer to the prayer is not when he prays, since then he's in a state of cursed, meaning deficient, and the complete does not connect to the deficient. Rather, when a person feels whole not because he knows that he is wholeness, but because he feels himself as lowly and regards whatever grip he is on spirituality as a great fortune, from this he derives wholeness and says that he is not even worthy of this. This is the time where he can receive the feeling for what he felt while he was working in the manner of the left. Now we can understand what we asked. Why, on one hand they said be very, very humble, and on the other hand it is written, and his heart was proud in the ways of the Lord, as they are two opposites on the same topic. The answer is that they are two opposites on the same topic, but in two times. In other words, when he engages in the kingdom of heaven to take upon himself faith above reason, when the body disagrees with it and gives him many excuses that now is not the time for this, and brings him evidence from other people who do not pay attention to this work of faith in the Creator above reason, he should say about this, and his heart was proud in the ways of the Lord. He does not look at anyone, but is determined that this is the path of truth, and he should not look at anyone or hear what the body makes him understand. Go and look at reputable people who understand what is the work of the Creator. It is about this that they said, and his heart was proud to be proud that he understands better than everyone. But when he engages in and sees that he has no idea what he's learning or what he's praying at that time, he must not be proud and say that if he does not understand, why should he look at the books in vain if he does not understand the matters of Torah, and at that time he should be in loneliness. As our sages said, be very, very humble. In other words, a person should be in loneliness and say that he's happy with whatever grip he has, since he sees how many people do not have any grip on spirituality. Therefore, here he needs to feel that he is not worthy of anything and be happy. We'll move on to a lesson from January 25th, 2002. So, we've read a part of the article from the ranks of the latter, page 139. When should a person use pride in the work? What he explains to us is how many in our soul, how many desires, qualities, urges, laws do we have, and how can we gain them, acquire them, place them under our own control? When a person starts controlling the soul, which is this the vessel in which he feels the spiritual world, the Creator, so to control, to rule over all the forces of the soul, that is possible only in a state where the person himself gives exertion during the time of descent. When he exerts during the time of descent, this is called man, and then he's going to acquire something, is going to govern something, meaning he's given the sense deliberately states, where he feels distant from spirituality, from holiness, where it doesn't interest him. Suddenly he begins to see that he can settle for no spirituality, it's not so attractive, there's nothing special in it, and then in those cases, in those states where he goes above his feeling, meaning despite him not feeling any interest, he understands that this feeling was given to him deliberately, and so despite not feeling any interest, he still goes for it, holds it by the teeth, as we say, acquiring spirituality. Then he advances specifically from these states, and then during the time of descent, the extent to which he can advance in it, that's his advancement, because all other states that he's given come as an awakening from above from the Creator, and therefore in them, in those states, there's nothing that's regarded is, on the person's account, right, that doesn't stain him. There's room here, there's a place. Any questions, please? Yes, it says here that Abraham received this instruction from the Creator to make a commandment, and he wasn't certain to, and so he went to ask others, and there's an explanation here why he went to ask and so on, because he felt lowly. But if the Creator actually gave this to him, then why ask if he felt that it's the Creator who told him go do this? Then what, he doesn't trust the Creator even if he feels it? If you have that feeling, we were talking about actually how a person scrutinizes his forces, his powers, when we're brought closer to spirituality. We live for thousands of years, from incarnation to incarnation, in a beastly way like the rest of the world, right? We have lived through many incarnations, through many forms, in many different places, a beastly life. Throughout those incarnations, we have developed in our desires, our demands, and the whole of humanity is developing this way. We can see that development. The soul develops and requires more and more and more. Why the soul? Because the beastly part in us does not develop. Our body is the same body. If it weren't for the soul, the spiritual part of the person would have been like a beast. Do beasts develop? Do they suddenly require television and create rockets and things like that? No, the beast remains as it is. It has this simple law, as it was born to just preserve itself. That's the only law to keep itself alive. So what develops in us is the spiritual part. The spiritual part develops on two planes. Let's say two stages, not planes, two stages. The first stage is where we develop. This is called the corporeal stage, beastly, spiritually beastly, let's say, meaning we chase after sex, honor, money, knowledge, and so the soul develops. But still, it's developing by chasing after pleasures which exist in this world. After it develops like that through several incarnations, it is brought, meaning a lack is revealed in it through its development, also for spiritual pleasures, and then a person begins to feel what is called the point of the heart, and he wants something that is beyond this world. What does it mean? Beyond the pleasures he can perceive in his senses, spiritual pleasure. He now feels that he's lacking something in his life which is called light, and where he can absorb it and enjoy it. That place is called the soul, the spiritual vessel. When a person begins to develop that vessel, he's forced that lack is inserted into him, right? It's revealed after all the previous developments, the beastly developments, and then he begins to be like Abraham. This is what we're told, that he feels this impulse, this urge to reach spirituality, and then we say that it's the Creator telling him so to speak, go develop, come to a new state, an additional state, a better one, a special one, and then the person begins to feel within himself various forces, thoughts, urges, which are for and against this state. This is what he explains to us. It's like in the theatre, each one of the actors plays some quality within the person. So member is one quality inside the person, and you have others. Never mind all of Abraham's household, right, with all his beasts, everything he has through the field as well. And like the beds have what? Did he have the right? So they explained that this are the forces of his soul which are for or against this development. Now you ask, why do you need all that? Creator says, listen buddy, go. You have a clear paved road ahead of you, go. So why do you need to project it, oppose it, doubt it? It is desired that you become a damn human, develop into a human being, not a beast, meaning you can leave the person like a puppet, improve it, and make of it what you want without him being aware of it or partaking in the process. But by this you leave creation on the degree of beastliness and benefiting his doing good to his created beings, that being the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation is that the created being will be on the degree of the Creator, because under the degree of the Creator, that's not called doing good for the Creator. If there's something good that it can only be that one thing, the maximum, the top, and less than the very best, that isn't really, that cannot really be called to benefit, to do good. And so the Creator, the upper force, when he plans to bring creation to that good state, The intention is to bring all of creation to his level, the best level, the highest, to make of the creation of the created being the creator. No, the difference between them is in the recognition of the state, and that is what's demanded of a person, that he by himself will begin to recognize the state he's in, from complete unconsciousness, the state we're in with respect to spirituality, where it's shut off from us, as we say. What does it mean, it's shut off? We think now that probably there is something spirituality. We just don't feel it, so we're just feeling that we are unconscious. But we don't actually feel unconscious yet because we don't feel a lack. Being unconscious, I know what it means to be conscious, and now I feel what being unconscious is, right, but we still don't have it. But nonetheless, we are somehow beginning to feel that maybe there is something, but the person needs to himself discover this lack, what's missing between him and the creator. And if he discovers it himself, then we say that he himself built this vessel, and he understands what it means to be on the degree of the creator instead of being on this beastly level of ours, which in relation to spirituality, it's simply under existence. There's a max barrier under the barrier. It's called non-nothing, null, simply nothing, and so man was given all sorts of forces for and against, so that through free choice you can advance towards that direction only. Meaning if you knew all the qualities of your soul and all the laws of nature that are around you, meaning who you are exactly, and what the reality outside of you is, all these laws, all these systems, and it was absolutely clear to you, then you would have seen that you're completely, absolutely a robot, meaning you have no way to establish yourself except for one thing, to advance to being like the creator. Other than that, everything is pre-planned, it's already sealed. There's no choice in that. There's no randomness. It's simply ticking like clockwork, but advancing towards the creator. In this, there is a free choice, but only in this, meaning only for that. If it's a little bit in a different direction or a different context, then no, it's only that. And so it's very important for us to know all these qualities within us and the path that we need to walk in order to use this only free choice that we have in order to advance, because if a person does not advance, he's not pushed forward, he's not advanced, because you need to walk this path. You have a very, very narrow path, long, but very narrow, and you have to constantly, but this path is in a desert, let's say, where you don't see the path, you understand. It's as if treading water, or you don't know exactly what the next step is. You don't see, but from all of your forces that you have, you need to choose north, as we say, to find north and to direct yourself towards the goal with every step, and then you make a proper step. If not, it may seem to you that you're taking steps, but these aren't steps. It only appears to you in your beastly eyes, and then you can just walk in place, or run in circles for 1,000 years, meaning the method by which to reach the goal, to take every step towards the goal, to see if you're taking that step or not. In practice, if it seems to you that you're advancing, it seems to you that you're running, but in actuality, you're running in place. That method is the method of Kabbalah, the wisdom of Kabbalah. So for that, you need to see the path, and this is done in a simple manner. You need to open the person's eyes so that he can see what's ahead of him, that it's truly a desert, and that in that desert there's no path, no road, except for this one special path, special for him, and each one has his own path, by the way, so he doesn't get lost, get confused, and to see the ultimate goal, to see himself and to know how to take every step, to examine it, scrutinize it, and take it. You understand, and if he doesn't do it, then another incarnation and another time passes like that, because we are below the plane of spiritual life, and so we can reincarnate for 1,000,000 years more. That's no problem. It doesn't bother anyone. It's a useless life. So there's no calculation regarding this life, and that's it. It's not taken into account. So what they tell us in all these stories, the Kabbalists in their articles, they tell us about the forces of our soul and how, through various contrasting qualities, different qualities within us, how we can use them to choose the right path, to realize our free choice. Student, but how can I tell if I'm now You studying Kabbalah all this. I don't see the path yet. How to tell if I'm taking the right step? I'm making a bad step, running around my own tail. How do you know if you're making the right steps now or not? Kabbalist explained to us that you begin to go into some place to study Kabbalah. At first, you don't know anything. You also don't know what place you're in. You could be in several other places, and not just here. There are some who are now or in other times, doesn't matter, sitting in other places, and they're also trying to learn and find something for themselves. Everyone has a different thing. There's a difference of place, difference of method. Are they in the same method or not? There's no answer to that. You basically weren't given a choice. Now, you were led to do this based on what you feel, meaning if you feel that you have some doubt, go to another place and check. Check where do you feel better here or there. Perhaps according to your development, you still need to be in some other place. Come to in some 30 years. There's a general law of reality called the law of equivalence of form. That just like a magnetic field. If you put a piece of metal in it, and you see it's drawn to the pole right, meaning everything is gravitating towards its center of balance, including the soul's these urges that you feel, it's actually the soul being drawn to its place where it can feel hollow, where it can feel peacefulness. And so a person who looks, he finds, he just throws his hands and legs and comes somewhere, and ultimately everyone reincarnates this way and comes to their place that is right for their development. Some people are developed enough to just keep learning yoga, or some other person arranges flowers. I don't know what it's for each and everyone. You can't know this intellectual insult, but the knowing, the inner feeling, is then the eyes open up and you see. I understand from what you say that even if the Creator talks to someone and tells him what to do, he still has free choice if to do it or not. The what does it mean that the Creator tells a person do and the person has free choice? Need anyone here? There are some in a Balinal, a house for the mentally ill. So they say they hear the Creator telling them something, right? So the Creator tells a person, means a person feels within him some urge is right. If this urge is towards spirituality, we can see, but he pushes you to everything. He plans and pushes you to everything good and bad. Now, if this collective or general force, called the Creator, pushes all of reality like this, without giving these pieces of reality free choice or to feel it, it means that their attitude to reality is like still vegetative and animate. The relation to the speaking and to man is such that a person feels what he wants like a beast. He can also criticize it his desire and then also begin to change it. Now to turn the created being into Adam. Adam comes from the word to resemble the upper one. So for that a person has to go through all the opposite states of himself, and then a person would have to choose and basically choose to become like the Creator, and that's the whole free choice that a person has. So if a person would just fulfill all the actions from above, that means he's like a puppet. It's like a tree. It's like still vegetative anime just following instructions of nature. There's no uniqueness there. So still vegetative and animate are not considered separate from the Creator. They are bonded with the Creator 100%. What nature determines, the Creator determines, right? They do it without any choice. And then that's not a beastly level. It's just zero. When a person recognizes that he should do that, meaning he justifies the Creator, and specifically from all of the opposite qualities to the Creator. He chooses to be like him. By that he builds a man out of himself. Meaning our education, the holistic education, is very opposite to education on the street. Religion simply educates a person to be like a machine. Get up and do this and do that and do that. Kabbalah is the opposite. That develops in a person's senses to draw criticism that a person begins to disagree with the Creator, to curse the Creator. He truly wants to rebel him, and then he begins to understand where these qualities come from. He begins to compare these opposite qualities of him and the Creator's And then, this justifies the creator, and then the status of the creator then wants to resemble him, then practically turns himself from opposite states to become like the creator. This is man's development, and therefore the reason of the Torah is opposite to the reason of the landlords, and how the landlords are activated and operated and educated, that's totally opposite to his reason. The person who comes here begins to receive such education that he completely and totally becomes free of all the frameworks of all the initial conditions. Nothing you have to inspect. You have to check over each and every state, whatever it is. Don't be afraid, and based on that to choose truth. Otherwise you'll remain a beast. What are the sources of these factors that resist advancement? The search after that point. This is such strong intuition. So why resist? Where does the resistance come from? This intuition, this inner sensation, the search for the point. You're asking basically like this. A person has intuition. How to put it in Hebrew? Intuia in Hebrew. Yeah, it's like some sort of a sense of, how to put it, like a sense of seeking. This inner guide, this inner feeling. I know what it is. So I don't think that this is a truly powerful thing that you can rely on. You see, even beyond intuition, with all our brains and all of our minds, look at what we're coming to. Global destruction. And just, so we can't follow our intuition, and also we can't follow our science, because if we want to acquire the upper world to reach spiritual development, what does it means spiritual development? To be in the sensation of eternity, wholeness, full of knowledge, power, abilities. To be like the creator means to be and live in eternity and wholeness. So our intuition alone can't take us through, because our intuition it's not even senses and conclusions that we can somehow criticize. It's all kind of what I feel. Everything is ultimately based on beastly experience completely, and beastly urges and mind, and that doesn't know more than what it sees in front of it, a few meters, and that's it. Accordingly, we cannot find the spiritual path, because spirituality is a completely different kind of sense and different laws than what we know. So this, the sixth sense, what we call a soul, and the laws in it, that the reality that appears in it, it's completely totally unrelated to our mosh. I meant that the sixth sense is not intuition. The sixth sense is a sense that exists in each and everyone. And if a person feels an urge to develop it, if he already feels a lack for it, for that sixth sense, then here there's already a special method for how to develop it that requires freedom of choice. Yes, but you have to realize this freedom of choice. You can't tell a person, oh, you're free to choose. You have to teach him where the freedom is. As I explained, you have 1,000 paths, and you can't separate between them, or you don't even see them. That there are 1,000 different paths, and they are intertwined, and you have to somehow choose the right path out of all of those where you can advance, and in everything else you don't. So the choice is in choosing your paths and how to advance on this path. Meaning, there are many, there's a lot of knowledge here, and a very precise method, forces that you seemingly need to invite upon yourself to advance, and you're still not in contact with them. How can I go if I really feel like a desert? So there's this inner contradiction here. If I have to make the right direction in the desert, what direction do I go? 360 degrees. It's all the same. So if I see I don't have, there's no choice anymore. So I was made in such a way that I don't see. But then how will I choose? So the situation itself is unreasonable, illogical in our mind. In the spiritual mind, we immediately see there's no choice, but in ours, there is. So how do I advance? After all, so here, we have to see how to use the forces that are still not felt, and therefore, we have to receive something from outside in this method. It doesn't exist in us. Many people claim I'll just advance according to how I feel my soul, to whatever I feel, and this will be it. If you advance with yourself, you'll be a beast. Here you have to acquire something new that is not there. And so without receiving this wisdom from above, from outside, from the other world, you cannot advance. Therefore, without the study, also the study itself, Through the study, we simply draw forces upon ourselves that will work and help us make the choice. That's it. A force comes from above and it gives me what is called grace of holiness. And then by doing that to me, how does it work on me? I don't know. And what exactly is he doing? I also don't know. I only know the desired end result that I want from the study, that during the study there will be the surrounding light will shine. This surrounding light works on the point in the heart, the root of the soul, and then I begin to feel some attraction in the right direction towards the source from where the light that reforms comes. And then this attraction, this little urge is what determines the choice. That's it. So you can see that there is something hidden here. Of course, it's hidden. I, as if need to summon a higher force and how to invite it, how to acquire it, and what tool of measurement. I can see how many watts or kilograms or watts. What is it? But the conditions are just such that you take a book, and if you sit in front of the right book reading the correct book, and before that you've made the preparation of what you want to demand from the book, exactly what you want to achieve, by what do you want to achieve it, and if you've consolidated that desire before with labor truly, then what comes to you is the correct spiritual force. So there are many details here, but altogether the result of our whole gathering and studying our action is that the light will come from above and pull us. That's the choice. Yes, other questions. In a state of descent, from where will I gain the power to offer that awakening from below? So again, in order to let the person make some effort, some movement of his own, he is let alone. So from above, you don't have a some force that comes and tracks you towards the goal. It's the opposite. They block your path forward. Doesn't happen right away. Person is being put in the right direction a bit. He begins to feel, begins to notice all kinds of little things, and then suddenly you feel that he's completely detached and in a bad mood, and meaning that both in his bliss and in his spirituality, he's being lowered. Why is that done? To give the sense of the desert that you don't know what to do, so where to go I also don't know. And then when you don't have the inner state called present and the surrounding state, surrounding light called future, that shines from afar, if you don't have both, that leads a person to a sense of despair, not in the present and not in the future. You can't live from what you have now or from what you will have. So why is that done? To simply show you in what state you're truly in, and without a correction from above. Can you do something in that state? Almost nothing. And still, just to somewhat inspect and see how much better it is to go with the forces that come from above. So, these students, these states, teach the person, they build the person. They teach the person about the truth. Yeah, these states build the person, because otherwise, when he's given all kinds of fulfillment and is drawn from it, it's not a real. Everyone will advance in his way. Let's share our impressions of the lesson and what we take from it to realizing the 10. A person's advancement depends on the places where he feels the lack of taste in the work, loneliness, and it doesn't attract him. And this is specifically where we need to exert. That's what's counted, and tells us that all the stories of the Kabbalists take place within the person like an inner theatre, and in that theatre there are actors, meaning qualities within us. For example, a Baram and Savar, and they all fill a certain role for us. And so we have to discover within us Abraham and Moshe. There's nothing you can determine on your own except for one, and that's to advance in the direction of being like the Creator. And he talks about the forces of our soul, how through different strange qualities, contradicted qualities in us, well, through them we can find the way to implement our free choice. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about choice in the lesson and a person's progress, how it's made. And maybe the main principle is that the light develops the soul, and a person through all kinds of things he does in this world should awaken at light as much as possible, so it will advance him. And for this reason, the Creator puts a person through all kinds of stages of ascents or ascents, but mainly the place of remoteness. And there a person needs to bring himself to the realization where he actually realizes what the Creator already placed in him. These are states for implementation that are very kind of sharp, where the choice is not democratic as we think of, but it's always at first very difficult. It's always felt against me. And Abraham was a champion at those states. He had to kill his beloved son. What's that? And, of course, just before he does it, the Creator says to him, no, stop. There's an idea there. It's not that. And he says, what is this? What does he have to kill? And what remains after this? Action. One's progress is precisely at the time of descent. That's the place of work. And the free choice is only to advance. To the Creator of said it's a very narrow trail. You walk in the desert. You don't see your next step, and a person advances and builds his way out of a contradictory point Cavalier develops in a person's senses, and to criticism, and by criticizing and disagreeing and rebelling, he gradually begins to agree and wants to become similar to the Creator. He goes through states that are contradictory states from being similar to the Creator, and there's a blessing in it out of these states where a person feels this desert, that he's in despair, and he doesn't know what's coming in the future, and he's not getting correction from above. So after he receives the correction, he needs to have the deficiency. That's what it's for. So he will continue to advance and walk toward the goal to the extent in which one can advance during descent. That's a person's advancement. What develops is the spiritual part, and the person is demanded to recognize on his own the state he's in, to advance towards being like the Creator. This is our free choice, and we need to constantly see the goal, the final path, and then do. We need to use forces we still don't feel, like the grace of holiness, that which pulls us to the new state. Our new state is in resembling Him. It's a very narrow and long path. A person needs to constantly check if he's on this path and is not diverting from the path, right? And there's a difference between intuition and the sixth sense. Intuition stems from the will to perceive. The sixth sense is a sense of bestow. Let's move to the next part of the lesson, but before that, we'll sing a song. Let us spread this light. SH. We must all unite. The world is changing. It's changing fast. Economy is crashing. We can't figure out. We don't ask why. Nature is talking. It speaks to us, but we don't hear a word. It's a global connection. Its next blow will be much worse. Let's reveal the message. Chamarti Sharmi. Love will light the way. Shamarti Sham. I heard a wise man say Shamarti Sharmi. Let us spread this light. Chamarti Sharmi. We must all unite, chasing pleasures all our lives. What is the purpose? No satisfaction on to the next. You tell me, is it worth it? What we long is to be loved, because we're all connected. So let us join our hearts as one. We'll never feel rejected. Chamarti Shamarti, love will light the way. Shamarti Shi, I heard a wise man say Shamarti Sharmi. Let us spread this light Sharmishi. Let us all unite La Sham Sh, love will light the way. Shamat Sham, I heard a wise man say. Sham, let us spread this light. Sham, let us all unite. Okay, so we are continuing to study the preface to the wisdom of Kabbalah. Today, we will have a lesson that's a little different. This course that I've gave to beginners had 10 lessons. It's very compact, condensed. The course that my group received was 52 lessons. This course is only 10, so it's very condensed. A lot of explains a lot, but still he let new students time to ask questions, general questions, where we are, what we're learning. There's still this, so he talks less about the preface. Only toward the end he talks about the importance of the world of, not the world of, but its importance in the next world. He'll probably talk about the world of, which corrects the breaking of the world of Nekotim. So today we're going to do it a little different. Now Iran will give an overview of what we've learned so far, prepare questions so that we are ready to learn the world of, and then we will watch this beautiful lesson. Really all the questions they ask, I watched it, and I think that until today we still ask those questions as ourselves. So now please, give us the review, the overview. Okay friends, also the part of the lesson that we're going to hear in a few moments. Rav talks about there being 2 stages. One is from above down and one is from below upwards. First of all, we we'll do a go-over of everything that we saw from the 4 phases of direct light till the jutting. The vessels will go stage through stage together. We'll be reminded of what we saw so far, and then we'll move to questions and answers. So, we will start. We know that the thought of creation is to do good to his created beings, where the Creator wanted to create the desire to receive, and he created it and filled it. We know that there are 4 phases of direct light. Phase 1 is completely filled with the upper light. The light creates the desire to receive and fills it. And in the desire to receive, a feeling of the giver is felt as well. Out of that feeling of the giver, the desire to receive now wants to resemble the root. It wants to be similar to the giver. And because of that, also phase 2 is created, which has the desire of to give in the same way that the root creates and creates phase 1. Now phase 2 wants to do the same thing. She wants to give, but she has no one to give to. So what happens? She wants because she wants to give. She discovers that she has to receive and also to do the same process that Ket does where, and that root phase does, and phase 3 emerges, where phase 3 has this form in which she receives in order to bestow. That's the form that we said that is the a complete form. This is the ideal form of the desire in which it both receives and bestows. And this form is a form of the desire in which it's seemingly in wholeness. But this is called meaning. It receives a little within a lot of. Why is it so? Because it was created from out of Bener, and Bener has the quality of it's the light of giving, the pleasure from giving, relative to phase 1, which is the pleasure from receiving, which is the light of. Now in phase 3, in the end of it, awakens the desire to receive everything. Now that the desire understands what it is to give, and what it is to receive, the desire to receive everything is created to receive all of the thought of creation and to implement all the way his desire to do good to his created beings. So what happens in phase 4 is that she wants to receive it all, also to receive all the filling, and also to receive it from the root, from the giver. The filling of the giver, it also wants to receive. So phase 4 is completely filled. Let's do it like this with numbers. We got 1, 2, 3, and phase 4. Phase 4 is completely filled, and a desire in phase 4 to resemble the root awakens in her as well. We studied this in test that she wants to adorn herself. We saw that also as the form of shame is she longs to be an equivalence of form. She wants to be like the giver. Phase 4 also wishes. We saw that it's considered the created being himself. And thus far the desire to see was used directly. The desire, and it would awaken, and it would be filled. And now from the desire to resemble the root, the first restriction is made, which says that we don't receive in order to receive. We don't use the desire directly, but rather now there's a calculation in which we receive only as much as we can aim in order to bestow. That means that a different process begins here, where the desire to receive is filled through the line. What does that mean? Through the line where it only receives the quantity that can be aimed in order to bestow. And here the building of what we call the begins. The head begins to calculate how much of the light of all the direct light can be received in order to bestow. Here, the restriction is made, and the screen, which rejects all the light back, and the calculation begins. How much of the direct light can be received in order to bestow? We have here direct light and reflected light. I'll write this in English so that the whole world clear will be able to follow. Direct light and reflected light, and to the extent in which it can aim in order to bestow that quantity, that sum, that small quantity, which is a very thin line, is received as an inner light. And here we have the structure of we'll take the example of the first of what we called the world. This is called the inner light, our open eye, which can now enter into Now we also see that there are 3 parts to this poo. The upper part is the head, which calculates how much can be received in order to bestow, the which practically receives, and the bottom part, which does not receive the light. We also learned that this part of the puff is called the taboo, and the sum or the ending of the inner light is a combination between the light of and the light of from this point the light is no longer received directly, but to the extent in which this light of it can also allow the light of to enter, and we have it clothed in what we call our inner light. We also saw that the inner light has 4 parts, right? We saw that when the light enters, that's called or flavors, tastes, and when it emerges it's called dots, and the record that enters from the entrance of the light is Kaladin, and the record that the record that remains from the emergence of Mikadot is called or letters. There, that's Tamamod, and from here the record that remains from Tamim is called, and the record that remains from the Nekod is called. I didn't write it here, but we already know this process. We've seen this in detail. This process repeats itself 5 times, and what happens out of this? These are the 5 parts of Adam called Galgalar, Abat, and each of these takes a record from Malins, from phase 4, and begins to receive in order to bestow, each with a certain coarseness and a certain refinement. We learned that the Galar works with the records 44, the works with the records 43, the Pua works with the records 32, and the Mar with 21, and Bon with the records 1 and Root, Sarkar, Absatma, and Bonala. Thus far, we have the world of Adam, the 5 parts, and we see that the light of cannot descend below Tabal. This is the same Prartu we saw before, according to the same one. So here what we learned is that the Nekot of Sag have a special quality, in which they stem from the refinement of the Sag, which, when the lights begin to emerge from them, and it begins to be refined, the records are of the level 2/2, which means pure Bina. Because it's pure Bina, it's light of which can't descend below the taboo. Because the restriction has no impact on them, Bina can go down no problem below taboo, and that's what happens. Bina begins to descend below taboo and starts to get intermingled with phase 4. Here we have the record 2. The phase 2 intermingles with phase 4. And in this intermingling, the second restriction is created. Here a new ending is created, as we so called the para, which begins to distinguish between the extent in which the force of controls and where the mud does. Thus far it was prohibited to receive in order to receive. Now there's a part. Here you're not allowed to receive in even in order to bestow this whole area. We're not allowed to receive in order to bestow. And we also saw that the sum now rose to the pillar. We also saw where here is the 2/3 of we'll do it this way, half. Then we have, and from here, there's our gap between vessels of Bistal that are above the pulsar and the vessels of reception which are below the pulsar. And we also know that here already the places of what will be the worlds later are created. Above the para is the place for the world of, and below the para the place of the world's beer. Then we saw that from the incorporation between the records 22 and the records 43, those records rise once more to the of SAG, and from now in the head of the of SAG, 2 couplings are made, one in upon the records for 21 second restriction, and another coupling upon the records of 43. From these 2 couplings, the world of Nikodem and Kat is created, which we saw that it has 3 parts of him, Abba and Son and Smallest, in which only the part called Galgate is operated, the vessels of Bestow, and afterwards that same world in Gadlut in its adult state. We'll do it here in the end, and so on, and we know that what shattered was the sun, which we talked about, the 8 kings that died. From this shattering, what we saw is that there are 4 kinds of vessels: pure, the intermingling of Galitum in the intermingling of our inem, and the pure, of which is the vessel pure, vessels of reception. We didn't yet come to the creation of the world of, but we know that from this shattering later the world of correction is created, which is the world of that will take care of this entire shattering, and it's also the central world which is connected to us and cares for us, and we will hear about this in the lesson with Roar, of course. So thus far the general summary. Any questions? I don't see any in the world. Are there questions? You said Guy. Oh Guy, why does it come out on the 43 in and not 44 if 2 was with 4 below taboo? And emerged on 2/1 in the second restriction. The record of 2/4 created a coupling in the pair as well. From their timing, and from it, the upper mark came out. This is the continuation of sag on 2/1 without the second restriction from the timing of sag. The records went up to sag 2/1. Before that there's the 21 restricted. Now, from there off, the same records of 2/1 came up, but with a second restriction. So their coupling happened not at the pay of the horse, but at the nick of according to what happened here, because here have vessels of bestow that can be used, and here you have vessels of reception that cannot be used. So accordingly, from where the records came out, according to these records, the coupling in the horse of sug is done at the place of nick vim, not at the b, where it's supposed to be. What's the addition of the 43 is the addition for good loot from the coupling in Nikamut of the world of Nikotum came out from the records of 43. Says all that I'm 4/3. From this emerged the gadlut of the world of Nikotum, which was broken. Can we also be more precise? Where exactly is the place of Ab? There's the 3 parts of him. Well, that's not critical for us. We just need to know we have tense of right. So we have, which is on. So you can divide it this way. It's more simpler. I'm sorry for the drawing. That's a little. I want to ask about the darkness and the world of Nikodem, which is face-to-back war phrases the vessels of our stall filled with light. Maybe that's where it's possible to work with it, and that's why the breaking happened. The question is, when did the darkness? When was it created for the first time? Is it in the departure of the light from himself? Is it in Ecuador and stuff? When does the darkness begin to come? Regarding face-to-face and back-to-back, it's not quite darkness. They are states between Abba and Ima. So in the beginning Abba, theoretically, you have 4 states, but in truth you have only 3. In the beginning, Abba and Ima stand back-to-back. Abba is Abba. This is. So neither. So both Abba and Abba doesn't give to and doesn't ask. When are they in posterior to posterior? In of the world of they are back to back. Abba doesn't give and I doesn't ask. So they're back to back. Then comes the dot of. So Ab receives good loot. So he turns to Imar and says, I'm willing to give you light, but I is unwilling to receive. Why? Because she acts only according to the request of the lower ones. If the lower ones don't ask, she doesn't give. So she doesn't ask. And then comes a request from below from the lower one. Give me light. And then I turns toward Abba, face to face, and Abba gives to Ma light. And then that light descends to the lower ones to zone. And in zone break, because you don't have a screen for it, this is called back to back up. My question is, can you say interior is light and posterior is darkness? Back is not darkness, but is in our situation. It's when is unwilling to receive light right now. Face is when she's willing to receive light, or when Aber is ready to receive light. In our case, that's the way it is. It's a relationship between and the world of. Many times we talk about the interior or the face as being the giving of light, receiving it, and the posterior as only the light of. So that can also be talked about, can't talk about as darkness. So can also be called darkness. No, can we say that of is light and lot of is darkness? Nork, woman China. If you could explain how Tander works, what we saw is that in the inner light, there's a process of the entering of the lights, or the expansion of the lights called tamim or flavors, and the entrance of this light leaves behind it a record of the entrance of the lights. We call it, there's an impression of the entrance of the lights called when the lights begin to depart. This is called nekod. Here there's a process that we didn't see in detail, but there's in the departure of the lights, because there's pressure of the surrounding lights to completely fill the something called a beating or a clash between the inner and surrounding lights takes place, and in relation to this pressure the screen there no longer wants to receive, because if it receives below the table it will be in order to receive. So what happens is that now a process of emergence of the lights begins, and this exiting of the lights is called nekod. The lights that emerge from there are called nekod. In this process of their emergence there's also other details that we didn't see, and here too in every there are stages. in which the light does a striking of coupling, again in its departure. And during this departure, the record that remains is called or letters. We also call them vessels. Yeah, and these are the real vessels as we see that Barham writes. Don't remember where. That's a paper is white, and on the white paper, you have the black letters deficiencies. And each letter has its own unique, right? So we said that the process is that gave light to zone to the lower ones. That's the process. In the beginning, light came to Keter. So in the beginning, light came to, and Kettle went into good loot, and the light came to Abba. Upper went into good loot. Good loot means greatness turned his face to Ima, and then the light came through its called. And through Ima received a sign from Zon, that they want light they want to receive. Ima thought they had a screen to receive that light. This is why she gave. They misled Ima. But again, it's a process. From above, it's not like Imo made a mistake because she didn't know what to do. It's a process from above, or in order to mix the vessels in the breaking. She made the breaking in order to correct Mal. So I received the light gave to Zone, and Zone broke. The breaking happened in 2 stages. In the beginning, of course, this level 4 broke, and then level 3, the kings of, and the kings of, then everything was mixed. And then 320 sparks were made, 32 of which cannot be corrected, and 288 can be corrected. This is called the stony heart, and this is called the rest of the sparks that can be corrected. I think our time is up, and now we will watch the lesson, and thank you very much. During the first week, we studied about, after the corporal world, there's this world, there's the world of. So, why do Kappists study from above down, not from below upwards? We learn development from above downwards, and then we learn developments from below upwards. It's the order of cascading from the creator to the created being of reality, which is really how it happened, from the complete to the incomplete in this world, and then we learn how in this world we have to gradually rise to the same state, the same route from which we came down there to these 2 directions. One, we're learning it in now from above downward, and the other one is we go through it in our bodies, in our souls. Yes, how do I know that Kabbalah is the right path? That if in Kabbalah this is the place, this is the right path. Beautiful, you're asking about me. I don't have an answer. A person should study where his heart feels is the truth. There are many people who find themselves in all kinds of circles and classes, insects and their teachings. I'm not disqualifying anything. I'm just saying, if I'm asked, check all the way. Don't go halfway, half agreement. Really be honest with yourself, sharp Hall. The way is what being said here is said sharply. Let's say that you agree and accept it. Don't be in a place where you're kind of forgiving. Yeah, it's probably okay, or something like that. Meaning there are places where a person whose soul hasn't ripened, so he's happier elsewhere, not here. Here it's too direct. It's too rough, it's too deterministic. He wants to heal. Like the weekly portion, some sweet words from the Torah, some stories. He's still like a child, developing. He's on the way. Some are closer to the point, and they come here for a few months or even a year or 2 and then leave, and then they may come back again. In other words, a person always comes to fill his soul to the extent that it developed and demands godliness, eternity. It's according to the question, what am I living for? To the extent that the question is raging in him, to that extent he is learning. So to the extent that this question really burns in you, be truthful, and according to this choose the place. There is no other answer. Why? What can I tell you now? My place is real. How would you check it? You yield. Believe me, it's forbidden to believe. Check. How? What instruments do you have to check? Can you already see what you will come to with my method after a year, or another method after a year? You can't compare. So what instrument do you have? You can ask. But with what instrument can you compare? The methods, only according to the feeling in the heart in your present state. Does it give me more answers or not? And let me tell you, it's not so bad if you go elsewhere and check. There and in other places too. I asked my teacher, he answered me this week, go check. I did go to several places and check, and I came back to him, and I told him about everything I saw. I wanted to hear criticism from him. Why? I thought like this. Why like that? He helped me kind of analyze each state, each feeling, and this is how I learned. The bottom line is only according to the feeling in the heart. However you feel it, there is no other answer. I wanted to ask that state of the final correction that you described. Can you reach it in this incarnation while in this body? Where are in our books? Do you have this book? No. Okay, so there's a new book that has everything. Kabbalah for beginners of recommends. Yeah, we have it here. 50 shekels, and you have everything in one book. Now he writes this in the essence of the wisdom of Kabbalah. He writes, this wisdom is no less and no more than an order sequence of roots cascading by way of cause and consequence in fixed and absolute laws that interweave into a sublime goal. What is the goal of the wisdom? In short, the revelation of his godliness to his creations in this world, meaning you have to, through this wisdom, discover godliness here while you are in this combination of body and soul together. What happens in the soul without the body? We'll talk about it a little bit, although it's not spoken of anywhere, but the bottom line is each and everyone must within a few years come to a state where he lives in two worlds, and for him there is no transition between life and death. He sympathizes with his soul, so he doesn't even feel when he leaves this body and receives a new body. But these incarnations for him are simply stages of development. More, to what extent does the body impact the soul in all these incarnations? The body interferes with the soul by seemingly interfering with his development. Purportedly interfering, it gives us confusions, all kinds of passions, weaknesses, and here you can, using the body, intensify, increase the power of the yearning upwards, the willpower, the power of the screen. He says, you also have it here, in the letters. Actually, I don't know where it is here, although I compiled this. He writes there's a book called Sage's Fruit. He writes that today you have all these writings in the writing of all these texts. So he writes, he says this, the soul which is a part of God above, before it comes to the body, it is adhered as a branch to the root. In short, I'll find it. I can't really see today. I took the wrong glasses. The soul was in unity with all the souls, and this collective collection of souls is called Nevermind. That vessel is divided into thousands of pieces. These pieces, clothed in bodies, physiological bodies, and also descent from their degree of godliness to wanting all kinds of lowly things, all kinds of pleasures. They bring the body all kinds of disruptions. If a person sympathizes with the soul and overcomes these disruptions, so these disruptions don't stop him from advancing to spirituality, to godliness, to attaining godliness. These disturbances are built in such a way that a person who overcomes them discovers more godliness. So when you return to the soul from which to the point from which the soul descended, over the resistance of the body, so that resistance helped you. So when you return to that place, you receive 620 times more lights, more revelation than without the disruptions of the body. The descent to this world and the ascent back up are in order to bring the soul to the basically infinite development. 620 times is called infinity. Now why 620 times? Because the soul that rises back up goes through 620 degrees called commandments. Each degree you overcome or a disturbance, you acquire a screen over it, and you then receive another one. When you acquire a screen, it's called performing or a commandment. When you receive light, it's called receiving Torah. The light is called the Torah, and the is called commandments. And this way 620 times. 613 commandments, and the 7 commandments of the greatness. Means great. So there are interpretations. Don't be connected to any interpretations you heard before. More, I'm assuming that everything we're studying here is the path of Torah. I don't know what Torah you learned. The Torah that we received in Mount C. You believe in that? Yes. I believe that what we're learning here is part of it, at least. So believe that it's a part or not a part. I believe today that it's a part. The question is, how do these great robs resist all this method? I'll tell you why. Ask directly. Is it a part or not a part? What we received from above, we received through Kabbalists. Who was Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses? Those who talk with godliness. Those who write the revelation of godliness is a Kabbalist. It's not just someone smart who read a few books. Someone who's on the godly degree, who feels the next world, who feels the forest is called, receiving from him, and what he feels. That's what he writes. But he writes in several languages. There's a language that's written like the language of that. Seems to us like it's rules of this world, but it seems to us this way. It's actually spiritual rules. This is why that there are so many things that are irrational, or it's written like a history book like the Torah, or stories about our history, or it's written like a legend which is completely unclear. You have all kinds of depictions that seem fantastic there, or it's written in the language of prophets, who also write in the language between the language of legends and the language of Torah. You have 4 languages. Why 4? Because the common vessel is divided into 4 parts. Because there must be 4 exiles and 4 redemptions, etc. It all depends on the structure of the vessel, which fundamentally is 4 parts. So of course, from whom do we have the whole Torah? From the Kabbalist. Kabbalists wrote this. Actually, the whole Torah is written for the days of the Messiah, to a time when we really need to begin to know godliness, and not just live in this world as beasts. The time we live in this world without recognition of godliness is a specific time to the end of the 6,000 years. At the end of the 6,000 years, the whole nation and then the rest of the nations, not just we are a chosen people in that we begin. We are chosen people in that we begin. We are the first, and then they come after us. They come to a state where we reveal the upper world. We begin to own both worlds, where we are truly great, mature to the extent that we are similar to the Creator, taking from him the leadership and the providence of all of reality. Now, so over 6,000 years as the Zohar was written and was concealed in all the books of the Kabbalist that were written, and Kabbalists only gave them from one to the other, from generation to generation in secret, and it was forbidden to study Kabbalah. It really was forbidden, and Kabbalists themselves dictated all those things. Until the beginning of our century, every great Rav was a Kabbalist. At least this is what told me, and this is what I understand today. Until the Holy Ashak, all the books that were written with Holy Spirit, meaning what with spiritual attainment. He didn't just kind of made up some smart words, but by attaining the upper world out of this he wrote. So they did not engage in Kabbalah because of the commandment of the Kabbalists, because the soul were not developed enough, and they had to go through the whole development in order to come to a state where we emerge, exit from the last exile. There are 4 exiles. When we come out of the last exile, physically, we have to also exit emotionally, spiritually, and then we need Kabbalah. And this is exactly our time here and now, our incarnation now. Previous incarnations, we don't really know. We don't remember. We don't understand. Right? Our incarnation falls exactly on the time where we came out of the last exile. And if we don't enter a spiritual redemption now as well, after we were given the land of Israel, and don't reach the spiritual land of Israel like we came to the physical land of Israel, then we will really be in trouble, meaning the external force, the external reality, will force us forcefully with blood to do it, and we will have no choice. It all happened through the Arabs, through all kinds of troubles and problems that I don't want to get into. I don't want to awaken them. That's it. Therefore, all the previous years and generations and thousands of years, they didn't study Kabbalah, and it was correct. And in our generation we have to study Kabbalah and Kabbalists just as then they said we shouldn't. In the last few generations we shouted that we should. You can take this book, you can see that. There's a special chapter here, tablets. Until our time, from who wrote when the should be revealed, and when we should begin to study it, and all the generations from Rashaman to our time. How Kabbalists write specifically about our time, and about the last Kabbalist of the, let's say, 200 last 2 centuries. that we have to actually start studying it. And here, that special paradox happened. That's because the ultra-orthodox world receives an education that completes it, gives it a sensation of wholeness that they can do everything they have to, they don't want, basically to begin to work in Kabbalah. Butam writes about it at the end of the introduction to the Book of Zohar. You can read it here. It's emphasized. It's in bold in the book. It's in grey, actually. And in order to nevertheless have enough people so you can skip over the education, because you cannot exit the education. But in order for a person to be able to bypass the education and reach the wisdom of Kabbalah, he must be non-religious. This is why several centuries ago, the period of enlightenment happened when scores of people went out from the religious framework and now they're coming to the wisdom of Kabbalah, and they are the ones who have to begin the correction, and hopefully after them the religious people will come and follow in them the whole world. This is the order. I'm talking about facts and what is happening on the grounds. I'm not hiding anything here. There's nothing to hide. Our life depends on it. It's not a game. What period are we talking about this? Redemption, like in years. The actual redemption began in the previous century, right, with the first a wave of immigration to Israel in the end of the 1900s. We landed in history right now. Spiritual redemption, everyone says it begins from 1995. Spiritual redemption, it's a time when in practice, in masses, we must begin to engage in Kabbalah 1995, meaning our time is already within the time where it is necessary to engage in Kabbalah. This is what I received from Warish, and I'm continuing. The redemption to the immigration to Israel started in the 1800s, late 1800s. The worlds we're studying now. Second restriction is that of the world. This in the beginning we studied that there are 125 stages and that they're divided into 5 worlds, which is, yes, and inside of there are 5 worlds, which are Gala. In all of reality from the Creator to this world, we learn that there are 5 worlds. These 5 worlds are 125 degrees. So the first world is then what we learn what is inside them, how these worlds operate, how the Creator created these worlds in a descent from above downwards, all of reality and our world, the last one, and the soul within this world that descended from above, and now that soul, through all those degrees, these 125 degrees, then rises back up from below, upwards. That's it. So everything we learn within these 5 worlds in the 125 degrees. So what's on the board is actually stages within these stages we learn, they are on the board. These are the stages, everything is in there. That is between Sag and Mar, actually. These worlds, no. We can draw. We have the Creator. Then 4 phases of direct light. Then we have Malhud of the first restriction, meaning the restricted in the world of the barrier, and this world. What we need is from this world to reach to all the worlds to reach. First of all, the barrier. Right here we said in the beginning, we talked in the beginning of the lesson about the quantity and quality of the labor. Here you have to make sufficient labor in order to cross the barrier. When you cross the barrier, you receive the screen, and through the screen, we rise 125 degrees. 25 in each world. 25 times. And 25 and 25 and 25 and 25 until we reach Malvud of the fresh restriction. Enter the world of that's it. And that's it. When we rise from below upwards, but state is called the end of correction or the final correction. So you have this we learn in the wisdom of Kabbalah, first of all the expansion. From above downwards, it is called the order of expansion of the worlds and parts of fame. From above downwards, and then we learn the order of the ascent of the soul from below upwards. That's it. Both. Our study is mainly in the world of Absolute, because here is the whole system of guidance and correction and bestow and providence. It's all here in the world of Iset, the world of Isma, is and is. So is like the design, the program, but is the execution. This is why the world of is actually the most important. Where's the tip of the ad in ket, or the tip of the is ket? So this is why we learn primarily the world of, let's say, in the study of the Tylot, you have 2,000 pages, more than 1,200. 1,300 pages of it is about the world of, because this is basically what we need to know. Who is our landlord, Lord, who operates me? How does he operate me? How I can cause all kinds of changes in him, through which actions, etc. Okay, more questions. I don't think it's redundant. Yes. We actually started, we're having the 4 phases of direct light that they went through the parts of him from each of them we had, and in we made it into 6, right? Or is it 0.66 or your questions? When we reach these parts of we're relating to this part of this a complete, not a tenth of, or also where we come to these meaning. We said we relate to it because you're beginning to play with smaller things. I'll give you a short answer. Maybe it'll satisfy you. Sanan has 10 parts in it too, except they're small, each one in itself compared to the rest of the parts of him, because it doesn't decide anything. Its head is in Sina in Bina, as we learn in the 4 phases of the light. And I think she wants, besides bestowing upon the Creator, besides the life of, she also wants to receive, so she would have light of when she begins to think about it. She engenders this operation called. So where is the of this operation called? And where's the execution? The execution is called. This is why feeling that this is not a in itself complete, but it got tense thought in it, but it is thought about. It is contemplated above. That's why it's called a san with respect to Boehner. She thinks about it and gives it everything, and it only receives both light of. We will learn it. Just imagine 1,200 pages about the world of. Believe me, out of them, the same 1,200 pages are about the he is called the Creator. To confuse you a little, because it operates on us. He is called the Creator, and of the world of is called Thaner, divinity. You mentioned earlier that non-religious people are drawn to the wisdom of Kabbalah. The question is whether a person who does not observe commandments, it's written on both verbatim and also in writing, can you develop from the study meaning without observing those commandments? If you read the introduction to the study of the 2, the most serious book in the Wisdom Kabbalah and most difficult, not when it talks about like a dry science book, you'll see that it begins with the introduction to the study of the T who should study my book. The book is 6 volumes, corpus of 6 volumes thick. So he writes those who should study them are those who ask, what is the meaning of my life? What am I living for? Such a dry science and so heavy. Who needs to study? They're to those for whom it is actually burning to see, what am I living for? What am I living for? It may burn to a religious or to a secular people, but religious people, because he received an upbringing, he puts out these questions, he suppresses them. It's as if he's got some way to compliment him. Although I feel bad, I'm observing commandments. I do all kinds of actions, and I get a good reward in this world. And the next world, the Creator is good, and does good. Somehow he smooths it out. Whereas a secular people who doesn't have these answers he received from his upbringing, and he cannot say I'm better than everyone. So he is actually helpless, and because of that he comes to the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is why I said that emerging from the religious upbringing at the time of the Enlightenment was in order for people to come to the wisdom of Kabbalah now, and indeed those who receive religious upbringing is difficult for him. It's difficult education of religion, any religion, not necessarily our religion and the rest of the religions too. The religion of the education of any religion comes in order to make a person complete, to give him some sort of relax the sore, but the sore comes in order to stimulate him towards high attainment, but the cure comes, to smooth it and make him forget about the problem. Now observing mitzvot is something that a person who begins to study Kabbalah, he gradually begins to see that this thing is a result of spiritual operations, because commandments is a spiritual thing. There's no such thing in our world. What do you have in this world? It is written that the Creator doesn't care those who slaughter a beast from the neck or from the back of the neck. You know how a beast is slaughtered, like this from here. So the Creator doesn't care how you slaughter a beast. But the commandments were given in order to cleanse a person to make him more spiritually refined. Commandments are spiritual actions. Spiritual actions. As we learn, it talks about actions with a desired through the screen. As we learn about every, you have a desire. You have a screen according to the measure of the screen. You activate the desire using it in order to bestow. And this is called the commandment. We learned that in this system is built out of 620 actions which are called commandments. And in spirituality, it's a spiritual system. A person must correct them. In other words, you can put it this way. Our soul is divided into 620 squares parts desires. When you take a desire and correct it, it's called performing a commandment. When you fill it with lights, it is called receiving Chua. So if you take your whole soul, all 620 commandments, you did them, and you received the whole Torah, all the light inside these actions. And it's got nothing to do with corporeal actions in this world, but because we are in this world for the time, being in both body and soul, than those who begin to attain spirituality or even don't attain spirituality, but have as a drive an inner awakening to also perform physical actions too. Although there seems to be no connection, no influence from this world to spirituality. When you thought a beast in this way or that way, you don't do anything. But because with your body, you want to adjust yourself, adapt yourself to the spiritual route, you do it, and that cleanses you. It makes you more refined, even because you want to resemble spirituality, even in the corporal way. To this beast, you don't do anything. And to yourself, the fact that you put into yourself a piece of meat that is kosher or not kosher, you don't do anything to your body, but your heart participates in this action. And here is the whole point of observing the commandments. It's a very subtle matter. You can't really explain it once. You need to hear it over and over until it drips and you feel that very fine point. It's not simple. When Rel talks about mitzvot, what does he mean? All the Kabbalists that talk about commandments mean you can read it. According to the definition in Kabbalah, Torah and commandments means act. Spiritual actions you do with your soul. With a screen you cannot observe to commandments unless across the barrier, as it's written that you cannot observe, unless in the land of Israel. It's written that abroad, a person is in the will to receive, so he's got nothing with which to observe. When will we start learning some spiritual action so that I can do something? When do you begin to learn spiritual actions and it becomes revealed by all means washing your hands? You have to receive from above a force called light, which will wash your hands. The hands are the vessels of reception. In them, you want to grab the whole world, right? So you need to receive from above a force called water. It's a force of Bina. We need to learn what is water. What is this? What this force symbolizes, how it operates on your will to receive, your ego. So when it pours over your will to receive, it gives the will to receive a quality that instead of receiving you want to give. This is called washing the hands. You know what it means to wash? To take in, yes. In Hebrew, washing, this special washing is called taking. So by all means, this is what we learn. If you want to do such an operation, you will reach it. And we will conclude with a song. What goes on here between us in this life we're all dying to know? What awakens between us in my heart? I can't take it no more. If we've made it so far, it's a sign that we're close to our goal. So we march on together, and soon we'll discover our soul. Let it all out. Leave all your cares, and begin to dissolve in the love in the air. We won't despair. No, we won't stop. Keep moving together. We let no one try. Let it all out. Leave all your cares, and begin to dissolve in the love in the air. We won't despair. No, we won't stop. We climb up a ladder. We climb to the top. Dear friends, in the first part of the lesson, we will learn from a recorded lesson from January 25th, 2002 based on the article, When Should One Use Pride in the Work? We'll read the article together in the 10. We have 32 minutes for that. When should one use pride in the work? It is written, quote, his heart was proud in the ways of the Lord. End quote. And in the Misnar, it was said, quote, be very, very humble. End quote. Thus, this contradicts what is written, that his heart should be proud. The Zoho asks, quote, and the Lord appeared unto him by the oaks of Mamre. Why in the oaks of Mamre and not elsewhere? It is because man gave him an advice about the circumcision. When the Creator told Abraham to circumcise himself, Abraham went to consult his friends. Inner told him, you are over 90 years old. You will torment yourself. Told him, remember the day when the Chaldeans threw you in the furnace, and that famine that the world endured, and those kings whom your men chased and whom you struck. The Creator saved you from all of them. Rise up and do your master as your master commands. The Creator told you advised him in favor of the circumcision. Thus I will appear to him only in your abode. End quote. This is difficult to understand. If the Creator commanded him to circumcise himself, then he went to ask his friends if he should obey the Creator. What if God forbid had said otherwise? Would he have, God forbid, heeded the advice of man and not the word of the Creator? Is that possible to say? It is also difficult to understand. What man told him that he should obey? The Creator that he will save you for sure, just as he saved you from the furnace. This implies that the basis for why M told him to obey the Creator is because the Creator would save him just as he saved him from the furnace. Otherwise, you should not obey. We see the same thing where our sages said, quote, died in the presence of his father during his father's life. Some say that because of him his father died when complained to Nimrod about his son Arm, about the breaking of his statues and throwing them into the furnace. And Haran said to himself, if Am wins, I'm with him, and if Nimrod wins, I am with him. When Arm was saved, they said to Haran, who are you with? Haran replied, I am with. Threw him into the furnace, and he burned. End quote. We see about Haran that since he said that he was going to take upon himself devotion on condition that the Creator would save him, he was burned. That's why in Aram's case, when M told him, you should obey the Creator since he saved from the furnace, meaning yesterday's Arm, for example, then the Creator would also save today's Arm when he circumcised himself. This is just like and with the furnace. The only difference here is that they are the same thing but in the same body, meaning in two states of a. In the literal we see that with Haram, and in the furnace there was the matter of the Gentiles, meaning that foreigners wanted both Arm and Haram not to obey the Creator. This was not so with the circumcision, which the Creator instructed him. That is, there is a difference between foreigners saying not to obey the Creator or the Creator telling him to obey him. I should say that when foreigners want a person to idol worship and detach himself from faith in the Creator, a person should give unconditional dedication. For this reason, when Haran said that he was ready to dedicate himself on condition that he survives, like Ava, not regarded as dedication, and this is why he was burned in the furnace. This is not so here when the Creator told him to circumcise himself, and he went to consult his friends. We should interpret this differently, that he thought that the Creator telling him to circumcise himself is a high degree, and he was still unworthy of it, as he thought that if the Creator told him to circumcise himself, and he was still unworthy of it, he might fall even from the state he was in at the time, since he knew he was in loneliness, as it is written, quote, and I am dust and ashes, end quote. Therefore he went to ask whether he was permitted to walk into this high degree and circumcise himself, or should he wait until he is worthy of it. This is why Enel told him, you're over 90 years old, and you will torment yourself, beginning to ascend to high degrees now, and beginning to do more work in order to qualify yourself to be worthy of the commandment of circumcision. You are too old to start making great efforts now, in order to be rewarded with higher degrees. This is suitable for a young man who has a great future, not for you who is already over 90 years old. Therefore, this is not for you. However, when he came to ask, Mamre replied to him, you see that the Creator does not look at your loneliness. Let him say when you are worthy, and then he can help you. As our sages said, quote, one who comes to purify is aided, end quote. But when you feel that you are dust and ashes, the Creator cannot help you, and you see that when you were thrown in the furnace, the Creator helped you nonetheless, since He is merciful and gracious. This is as our sages said about the verse quote, "And I will pardon whom I pardon, although he is unfit and unworthy of it." End quote. Therefore, here too with the commandment of circumcision, the Creator wants you to enter a higher level, although you are not worthy or fit. Hence, go and do your Master's commandments, and do not look at your own lowliness. This is a psalm said about what the Creator said, quote, "Now I know that you are God-fearing." End quote. The question is known. Does the Creator not know the future? That He said, "Now I know," meaning that now He knows that you are God-fearing. This means that now Abraham knew that he was God-fearing. And the question is, why did Abraham need to know this? We should say that now that he knows that he is God-fearing, Abraham can go to a higher level and is not afraid that it might be too high for him. Rather, he can already ascend. Likewise, we can interpret what Rabbah said, quote, "One should know in one's heart whether he is a complete righteous or not." End quote. We should also understand the why he needs to know this. Indeed, by this he will try to walk in higher degrees and will not think that it is too high for him. Therefore, advise him not to look at his loneliness, that he feels that he is dust and ashes. Rather, the Creator wants you to ascend in degrees through the commandment of circumcision. Go and do it, and do not look at anything. This is the meaning of the verse, quote, "The Lord is higher, and the low will see." End quote. And as it is written, quote, "The Lord raises up the lowly." End. Now we can understand what we asked. Why did Aaron consult his friends whether to obey the Creator or not? The meaning is that if he should wait and qualify himself to enter the high degree with which he will be rewarded following the commandment of circumcision, or should he do it right away and ignore his loneliness where he feels that he is dust and ashes? This is what he asked his friends about, and not whether to observe the commandment of the Creator. God forbid. And by this we will also understand why, when he was thrown into the furnace, he did not seek his friends' advice, but agreed to be thrown into the furnace in order to sanctify the name of heaven. However, this is the quality of faith, where we must give unconditional devotion, meaning to say I am very low. And this is why the Creator does not want to give devotion, but in idol worship. The rule is to be killed, but not to breach. For this reason, when Aaron wanted to sanctify the Creator with dedication, only on condition that he stays alive, like this is clearly not be killed, but do not be or breach, since his view was that he agreed to be thrown in the furnace. Provided he is not killed, it follows that he did not observe at all the commandment that there is in idol worship, which is be killed, but do not preach. This is why Aaron was burned in the furnace. Conversely, Aaron's view was in the form of be killed, but do not reach. Therefore, thanks to the complete commandment, he was saved from the furnace. And this is the meaning of the nations speaking to him there, demanding of him to worship idols, but with the commandment of circumcision, where the Creator told him to circumcise himself. The Creator certainly demanded to ascend into degree once he sanctified the Creator with. What did the Creator want from Abraham? Certainly to ascend to a higher level. It was about this that he thought that perhaps he was still unworthy of ascending to such a high level, which is why he went to ask his friends what to do, since he felt that he was still not worthy of such good loot, greatness, with which he would be rewarded by observing the commandment of circumcision. Therefore, it is a completely different matter here, and according to the above, we see that there are two states in the work: one, faith, and two, Torah. In the state of faith, it cannot be said that he is lowly, and therefore cannot observe the commandment of sanctifying the Creator, which is done by the general public of Israel, even among common people, that we hear that they died for the sanctification of the Creator. Therefore, when a person begins the work of the Creator on the path of truth, he must take upon himself the burden of faith above reason. Even though all the nations in the world in his body laugh at him, he must sanctify the Creator before the Gentiles in his body and say that he believes in the Creator and want to serve him with all his heart and soul, and even though they disagree with him, he can say that he takes upon himself to love the Creator, even if he has no feeling when he utters it. If a person should not be impressed with the organs disagreeing with his view, he does what he can do, that is in speech and action. He can do this by coercion, and although he feels nothing in it, he is still doing an awakening from below. It was said about this, and I will bless you in all that you will do. That is, the Creator will later send him blessing on what he does, although after the overcoming he does not see that he received any blessing, meaning he does not feel any nearing to the Creator more than he was prior to the overcoming. So the body asks the person, you told me that if you overcome your mind and reason, the Creator would give you blessing, meaning that by this he will feel the importance of spirituality. But you see that you are in the same state as before the work when you exerted to do things by coercion. To this comes the answer. If I felt the blessing instantaneously, then I would have done it in order to receive reward. This is similar to Haran, who said, if I see that Abraham was saved from the furnace, I am with him. Here too, when he says, I'm willing to bow myself and do good deeds against the body's will, but on condition that afterwards I will get a good feeling, how worthwhile it is to serve the Creator in order to receive reward, meaning a good feeling. Hence, if a person wants to receive reward immediately after the work of by coercion, it's as though he began with the coercion so that afterward he would not have to work by coercion. It follows that when accepting the faith, he sets conditions, but the faith of acceptance of the kingdom of heaven must be unconditional surrender. For this reason, where faith is concerned, it cannot be said that a person feels that he is too lowly, that it is not for him to assume the burden of the kingdom of heaven. Also, a person shouldn't say, now I'm not in the mood for this, I'll wait for when I'm in a better mood, and then I'll try to take upon myself the burden of the kingdom of heaven. Rather, this duty lies with every person to take upon himself the burden of the kingdom of heaven at any place and at any time. Conversely, when speaking of the Torah, this is the time when one should feel one's loneliness, since our sages said it is forbidden to teach Torah to idol worshippers, but only to Israel, and he should therefore first see if he is truly regarded as Israel. This means that he should see whether he's worthy of learning Torah. If he sees that he is still unworthy, he must try to be worthy, and then he will be able to learn Torah. What is the way by which one should qualify himself to be worthy? The way is our sages. As our sages said, the Creator said, I've created the evil inclination. I have created the Torah as a spice. In other words, a person should learn Torah first, so the Torah will lead him into being regarded as Israel. When he has the quality of Israel, he will ascend in degree to learn Torah, which is then called the Tower of the Creator, as in the names of the Creator. Before he is rewarded with being Israel, he must try to engage in Torah, so it will make him become Israel. Then is the time to come to wholeness, called the purpose of creation, which is to do good to his creations. However, when he engages in, since a person must work on two lines, right and left, meaning a time of wholeness and a time of lack. On one hand, we must thank the Creator, and one who feels he has received a lot of good from the Creator is more capable of giving gratitude. So when a person engages in Torah, this is the time to be in wholeness, as though the Creator has brought him close to be among the king's servants. However, one must not lie to oneself and say that he feels that he is serving the king when he does not feel this way.